Indie author Kyle Doucet here, taking a break from putting the finishing touches on Larry's Cabin. Recently I did a video on the influence comic books had on me as a writer, and I wanted to mention specifically my favorite comic book writer and artist, because that's one of the greatest combinations ever, if they're an illustrator as well as a writer. He is the man, the myth, the legend, John Byrne. When I say I'm a Superman fan, and I'm a gigantic Superman fan, I always classify myself as I'm a John Byrne Superman fan. His reboot in 1986, that was the Superman I grew up with. The first comic books I bought myself with my own money were a 3-pack of Superman 1, 2, and 3. Superman 1, that was where Metallo was slowly killing Superman with kryptonite. That blew my mind as a 6 or 7-year-old. Superman was so human, for lack of a better term, the way that John Byrne wrote him. Because up until that point, Superman had been thoroughly understood in culture as the Silver Age Superman. John Byrne's Superman was limited. You could tell really, really good stories about him. The second issue was where I got to see the Lex Luthor that I always consider the official Lex Luthor. The billionaire who hates Superman and will do anything to destroy him, especially his reputation. Because Lex Luthor can't believe that Superman doesn't have a price, won't work for him, and is incorruptible. How could someone have that much power and do the right thing? Incorruptible would be the best way to say it. I was a 6 or 7-year-old reading about a billionaire who was upset he couldn't buy Superman, and they were page turners, which just goes to show how well Byrne understood the characters and how excellent his writing style was. Because I still read those issues to this day, I still have them, and I get the same amount of enjoyment out of them. Then there was the third issue. It opens up on the streets of Metropolis with Clark Kent running away from these strange beams, Omega beams. And then once they strike him, he's teleported to Apocalypse. And that was the first picture or illustration I saw of Darkseid. So, John Byrne was my intro to the Fourth World and all of those amazing characters. My son's actually named after a Fourth World character because I grew to love those concepts and that story so much. Jack Kirby's Fourth World, which John Byrne continued for a while. So in my mind, it's always John Byrne's Superman and John Byrne's Fourth World, even though there were many other creators and one specific creator for the Fourth World. Oh, right. And after reading those initial 3 issues, I got the Man of Steel series. And again, as far as I was concerned, John Byrne's Krypton was my Krypton. That's the Krypton I grew up with. Superman's relationship with Batman. They don't particularly like each other. They kind of respect each other, but they're definitely not friends. But personally, I always thought that Superman should be in his own continuity. The same with Batman, away from the rest of the other DC characters. Those two just don't seem to fit in. He made the mark, is what I see as the benchmark for comic book illustrations, artistry, and writing. I was really sad when there was a parting of ways between DC Comics and John Byrne, because he planted so many seeds in the Superman mythos with the reboot in 1986. Now that I think about it, 1986 was a pretty pivotal year. We got a new Superman, and we got the Transformers movie. Some of the seeds he planted, Superman's powers came from mostly an electromagnetic aura around his body, which was growing in power every day that he was on Earth and absorbing more solar energy. Who knew what would happen? Well, again, that was planting the seeds for his power change, which I think if he had stayed on the Superman run, the story would have organically grown under his stewardship to have Superman with a power change, more on the electromagnetic spectrum. And we could have had years of great storytelling with that potential plot, but instead it became a gimmick. Well, in some alternate reality, Byrne and DC did not have a falling out, and Byrne ended up having a 20-year-long run on Superman, just like Chris Claremont had like a 25-year run on X-Men. That's why I'm grateful that indie authors like myself have the ability to craft their own worlds. We can make it as consistent as we want and prolong the story for as long as we want. In the meantime, like, subscribe, follow wherever you're seeing this, and check out my Substack, Bramblewood After Dark. Thank you. Say goodbye, Daisy.